Welcome everyone who's already online. I can see we've already getting up to around 19 participants sitting there waiting for us to get going. We, as always, will start in just a couple of moments to let the last people join the event. So thanks everyone for jumping on. My name is Kelly Wilkes and my role at MOQdigital is the Head of People and Culture. But today we'll be introducing our other hosts, Andrew Higgs and Andrew O'Leary, very shortly. So gentlemen, if you're ready to go, I will hand over, and thanks everyone for joining. I'll be talking to you a little bit later in the presentation.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, everyone, for joining. That is a wonderful welcome. Obviously, we appreciate that this is interesting times for everyone. There's lots of fun things going on, and we're all obviously learning on new methods of having to share work in a workplace where, you know, it's not normally where we work, but working from home is a very interesting thing to consider, right? So again, thank you everyone for joining us. I'm hoping everyone can see the presentation. The key topics that we want to cover today are the different collaboration platforms that are available to you, as well as also the importance of understanding meeting etiquette. So obviously, you know, with us working from home, what are some of the challenges that you might face, and some of the key principles that you might want to factor in when you're having to participate in any online meetings or any peer-to-peer video calls and so forth. Also the security as well, and understanding why we need the importance of security when we are having people participating in collaboration services, and the importance of securing those devices. Setting up your home workplace as well. We want to talk through what the importance are, setting up your workplace, whether it be your chair or your right devices and so forth. Those play a critical factor in ensuring that you have a wonderful meeting experience when working from home as well. And Kelly will also take us through the staying focused at home, the key principles of understanding that you've got the right place and the right people and the right plan in order to ensure that the meeting experience and the collaborative experience and the whole working from home experience is enjoyable for all. All right. So the collaboration platforms. Andrew, would you like to take us through the collaboration platforms that and services that MOQdigital offer?
Sure would. Thanks. Thanks, Andrew. Appreciate that. So everyone, hi, my name's Andrew O'Leary. I run the collaboration portfolio at MOQ. And I just want to thank everyone for joining. It's really great to be talking to everyone and using the tools that will stay productive and engaged while we're on this really unique situation that we find ourselves in at the moment. So I wanted to talk through a little bit about the tools that we have and what their intent is. There are a ton of them out there, and they're all different strengths and weaknesses. But at the end of the day, it's really all about staying engaged with your colleagues and customers in a meaningful way. At MOQ, we have a really rich heritage of collaboration as a business that was more digitally. So we actually use both Microsoft Teams and Cisco WebEx and effectively have the best of both worlds there. But you have to understand that both are different. They're very, very similar, but they have a very, they're very, very different, but they have a similar outcome. So personally, I like Microsoft Teams for desktop collaboration. The chat, the document repositories, the collaboration spaces, the desktop conferencing, it's all really good. It's great, actually. But when meetings involve a mix of physical rooms and desktops and mobile clients, I do prefer WebEx. So it really depends on the business's needs and what works best for you. As I mentioned before, MOQ lives and breathes what we offer to our customers in both Teams and WebEx. That's what we use, and that's what we believe are the best platforms in market. So I can tell you that we're really about understanding the business outcomes and putting forward the right solutions to our customers rather than trying to fit a square peg into a round hole. So just to recap, it's really important to identify and understand what collaboration outcomes you're looking for. There are lots of different use cases out there, and it's worthwhile talking to the experts about what will work best for you. Or if you already have a solution, how to get the most out of it. Both WebEx and Teams are really, really good platforms. You can't go wrong with either of them. Realistically, with both or either of them, you're in a safe hands to keep people connected and engaged when you can't be in the same room like we find ourselves now. So I might hand back over to Andrew now to cover off the meeting etiquette you mentioned earlier, which is super important stuff in having effective meetings. So thanks again, everyone, for your time. I really hope you get a lot out of today's session.
Thank you, Andrew. That is fantastic. So going through the meeting etiquette, understanding that with every meeting that you have, there's obviously going to have unique challenges from home. You know, there's always going to be, it's a different working environment, and you're going to have different sounds that you obviously things intruding on your audio that you wouldn't necessarily have in the office. So some of the key points that we've put together around having a meeting and having a working from home experience is ensuring that you do video first, turning on your video, making sure that you can see everyone. It really creates that human connection. You know, with something that we take for granted in the office is the fact that we can see everyone and see people face to face. As soon as you have to work from home, you can easily lose that connection, and having just an audio call doesn't really give you that true connection. So turning on your video really enhances that meeting experience, and not just for your for the obviously meeting experience, but also for yourself, that you're actually connecting with another face. Another important tip is to obviously turn on, so to test your equipment before the meeting actually starts. The equipment that you're using, you know, traditionally you want to make sure that it's actually 100% working. The last thing you want to be doing is starting a meeting and spending the first 10 minutes trying to get the equipment to work. Having a good light source, key light is important, making sure that everyone can see you and you're not sitting in darkness. I, for one, don't mind working in the dark when I'm just or when I'm by myself. But if I'm going to be meeting with other people, you know, surround yourself with good light. You know, it's good for your, good for the soul, and also it's good to be able to get people to see you. Some other things is you might have a busy background, or there might be a lot of things going on behind you. There might be kids running back and forth. So Microsoft Teams has a feature called background blur. For those organizations that are using Microsoft Teams, have a play with it and check it out. It's actually really helpful when running a video conference. Something that MOQ, we ourselves even struggle with this, and that's keeping a meeting to one conversation. If you've got a boardroom of people and everyone's having their conversations in the room, and you've got people dialing in, the people dialing in are trying to hear everyone's conversation at the same time. So you could be having a quiet conversation with someone next to you, but in your boardroom, whilst everyone's talking, it's the remote people dialing in, it's really hard to keep up with the conversation. And so adjudicating your meetings is critical, right? If you schedule that meeting, you want to make sure that everyone can hear everyone. It's quite funny because in working remote at the moment, you'll find that when you're having a meeting, everyone gets to have their say, because you're not all in one room. There's not multiple conversations going on at one time. So it's critical that obviously having someone adjudicate those meetings and ensure that one person's speaking at one time, making sure that everyone can get heard.
Yeah, look, thanks, Higgsy. I mean, that's one of the really key takeaways that we've learned. I've just come straight to this meeting from our weekly executive, and the dynamics changed. You know, we've moved from a business that used to work about 40% of the time offline, and now we're about 90% of our people are working remotely. And as you can probably see from our backgrounds, when you do see us, we are all at our homes today delivering this. So the dynamic in terms of the empathy and respect we have for people who are not physically in the office during meetings, you become really aware of it, and it changes the way we engage. So great lesson learned that we've learned from MOQ, and we thought we were pretty good at working remotely, but we've all had that reminder in the last week.
Exactly. So moving on to security. I'm not going to go in too much detail around security, but I just want to harp on the importance of understanding that whilst we've got multiple tools at our fingertips across the multiple platforms of security, something like multi-factor authentication or two-factor authentication with the relevant vendors is important. We, at MOQdigital, we don't have multi-factor authentication on the corporate network. So if you're in the office, you don't have to go through the motions of having to go through and doing two-factor authentication. However, when you're outside the office, we do employ multi-factor authentication because you're on untrusted networks. So ensuring that we have to make sure that people are aware if you're going to be out of the office, you're going to be having the requirement to do multi-factor authentication as well. So there are some principles around security that need to be mindful of, and especially for IT managers and CIOs, etc., to understand if we're not doing security today, in the current situation where you've got people using corporate services, possibly on untrusted devices and networks, security does play an important role in this. So setting up your home workspace. With the multiple collaboration platforms available to you, you want to make sure that you're using the right devices and you're operating in the right space with the right furniture. One of the most important things to remember is that with the collaboration tools that you're using, there are supported devices for that service. So, for example, if you were using a Cisco WebEx, you want to make sure that you're using a Cisco supported headset with that. If you're using Microsoft Teams, for example, you want to be making sure that you're using a headset that is supported for using that service. There are other devices that do work with the service, of course, and we completely understand and that obviously in the case where your headset doesn't work or whatever, you can obviously use things like Apple AirPods and whatnot, and that also work with video conferencing and using it as an audio device. One of the other things is also consider noise cancelling as well. Noise cancelling headsets are a fantastic piece of technology in general for any audio files, but fantastic for cutting out that background noise so that you can actually hear the conversation as well. Having a good webcam. Now, as you can see here, it's so important to do the video first. So having a good quality webcam, so where we can see you, where you can actually be personal with people, it's critical. Most mobile devices have an integrated webcam, whether it be a mobile phone or a laptop. But most desktop screens, they're monitors. They don't have webcams. So making the investment in getting a good webcam is a good idea as well. The other thing is a monitor is, you find that when you go into the office, you might have two monitors at home and two monitors in your workplace, and it's nice to have that screen real estate available to you. But when you work from home, you've only got your laptop, or you've only got a small monitor. Consider getting either a second monitor or a bigger monitor to give you that extra screen real estate. There's importance around furniture as well. It sounds silly, but we don't know how long that we're going to be working from home for necessarily. This could be a long-term gig. So in the interim, it might be great that you're working from the dining table and so forth. That might be a good interim solution to work from home, but it's not a long-term solution. So making sure that you've got the right furniture, you've got a comfy chair, you've got a dedicated desk, whether it be in a study, and making sure that it's got good lighting as well. But definitely keep components of when you're working from home. One of the things that we're doing at MOQ at the moment is we're trying to encourage the communication channels, keeping them open. We want to be able to have remote people working from home collaborate and sharing their experience in working from home. So we've started a hashtag called Post Your Setup. Kelly's going to go into this a little bit more, but this is just a bit of a preview as to what we're doing. We're encouraging our staff to take a photo of where they're working and share it on the internal social media. We use Yammer, and so we've got a long thread of people sharing their experience of working from home, sharing their setup. So it's just an idea for when you want to encourage people to get to communicate, open up another channel, get some fun happening. Post Your Setup worked well for us, and it's really it's taken off, and people are definitely participating. So I'll hand over to Kelly now, who will take us through how we stay focused at home and what some of the principles are around ensuring that we have a good working from home experience.
Excellent. Thanks so much, Andrew. Now, interestingly, those photos that you saw before were actually really photos from our team that have been shared this week as part of that fun. So I'm just going to make sure that I've got the screen on and you can see my slide deck. Okay, great. So as I said at the beginning, my role in the business now is the head of people and culture. But one of the reasons this is really close to my heart is because prior to doing this, I actually ran operations for our managed services group. And I did that from our office in Sri Lanka. And I also had team members in New Zealand, Melbourne, Sydney, Brisbane as well. So having to use these tools to actually actively drive the business forward was really part of my everyday. It was something that I had to live. And so what I like to call it, we talk about staying focused, but I love the term digital dexterity because, as I said to you, as a business, we thought we were pretty good at doing this, and about 40% of our workforce worked remotely on any one day. In a very short space of time, we went to being 90%. So from a technology perspective, we were really ramped up for that. Of course, we did have to do some shaping, but effectively, we didn't have to change anything in the technology side. But what we did have to do was really look at the people side. And so we've put some things in place. And what we've learned from that, and what, from a simplicity point of view, is I like to call it the 3 Ps. We have a really important duty of care for all of our employees, and I'm quite sure that there's a lot of executives and HR teams around thinking about how to create a safe and healthy workplace for all of their staff when that's actually now no longer inside of their office, even though we do have a duty of care. So we really want to encourage and support our team to understand what a safe and healthy workplace looks like, and I'll go into that in more detail. The other thing is businesses are just collections of human beings. So it's really important we help our staff to understand who are the people that they need to connect with to do their jobs, but also to keep a healthy relationship with the business, because we are collections of interactions that some of them are related to our specific job, some to our team, some because we happen to walk past them in the hall, even though we may not cross paths. So how do we actually encourage people to do that with actually consciously understand those people connections? And lastly, my view of almost have a plan for how you work best. We've got responsibilities to our families, to our business, and to our roles, but knowing how we work best and having a plan for that is really important. So in terms of place, as I mentioned, well, these are real pictures. These are actually setups that have been shared this week from our team, and it's amazing the insight that you get into someone when you see their setup. In terms of creating a safe environment, there's ergonomics, and this is not new. We understand that for our people, we need to make sure that they have the ability to have the right setup so that they don't end up with repetitive strain injury, that we are encouraging them to understand what their line of sight is, having an adequate chair. Now, not everyone is going to have a perfect ergonomic setup. The important thing from a duty of care is to make sure that we're providing the environment and the information people need to be able to do that safely. And if your HR teams or your business have not yet started to release some guidelines and support training around that, I do encourage you to do that. I'll talk a little bit more about that later. Atmosphere, this is noise, lighting, and air quality. If we're all sitting in a dark cupboard, and if you've seen some of the trails that are going around on the internet with some very amusing pictures of different setups people have made. I'm currently using an ironing board for this because it's a little bit of innovation to get the right light. The atmosphere is really important in the way we work, the same way as it is when you feel that you go into your office and the air conditioning is too cold or you feel too hot. You have to take those sort of things into consideration when you're at home as well, because you're trying to create an environment where you can be your best self. And lastly, of course, there's always risk. This is the world we live in. Slips and trips, lifting heavy things, making sure that we make regular clarity breaks, standing up and moving around. If you don't have a device on your wrist telling you to stop and take a walk every hour, in my experience and from the people I've talked to, the bigger danger when we're working at home is that we move around less. I can tell you, if you have any kind of step counter, you'll see that when you're working at home, you walk less. You are no longer commuting. You're no longer walking to the office. You're no longer going out for a coffee or going out for lunch. So really taking into account those health and wellbeing risks and thinking about those is important in creating that safe environment. Yeah. Separating, yeah, so we've started, actually on that note, we've started instigating virtual coffees and virtual beers. Obviously different companies have different views on beers, but for us, a Friday afternoon beer virtually is something we've put up, and we've also been doing virtual coffees. But we say to people, go out of your office, go for a walk, go into your garden, go somewhere else and actually just set up. And separating work and home is really important for the long-term mental health. I mean, I don't have a crystal ball, but I think almost all of us realise that this is not a 1 week, 2 week thing, that we are now into actually thinking about for the long term, how do we change the way we work? So setting ourselves up where we have a dedicated clean space to work, or we set it up in the morning, even if that means that we don't currently have an office and we're working from the dining table. How do we create a clean space, make sure I have all the tools of the trade I need, whether it's my headset or my phone or a mouse pad and a mouse, actually getting that ready to go. For most of us who are forced to work from home, we will have kids and animals. They can be fantastic and great ways to, again, increase our mental health, but they can also be a bit of a distraction. So the question is, have a think about it, work out. I know that I've changed my routine about when my kids come home from school, and I'm tending to take my mental health breaks in the late afternoon when they're in the house and noisy, and really buckling down on working hard in the mornings. I don't know how good the sound is, but you may be able to hear that I have a rooster crowing in the background. I don't know if this is correct, but there will be noises when you're working at home that are different to the noises when you're at work. And lastly, one tip is for people is to have this ritual, create a ritual around I'm going to work. Because what we find is that it's not that people work less when they work from home. Sometimes they actually find it harder to set the boundaries. So, you know, you get up, just check your email 6 or 7, go away, do something, come back, and then the same thing 7, 8, 9, 10 o'clock at night. So creating rituals and boundaries about when are the times we are going to work and when are the times when we are not going to be at work can be really important in the long term to make sure that we don't feel that we're always switched on. So this concept of being able to create some kind of separation will be really important in the creating of place. People, be explicit with your team about who they need to connect to. And I strongly encourage people to actually write this down. It's a very interesting exercise. So first and foremost is, who is my team? Now, this is a real webcast we had this week. You can see some people have their animals with them. The first thing is, who's my team and what is the rituals that they have? Are we currently having a daily stand-up? Is it a weekly meeting? Do I need to speak to them beforehand? What is my group? Now, in our business, we have practices, we have different departments. So that broader group tends to be more diluted in our interactions. There's 2 key questions. What is it that they know that I need to know, and what channels is that information coming through? Because you're no longer just passing them in the hall. So whether that is a Teams channel, a SharePoint site, some kind of wiki, or some group sharing, understanding what channels are being used, and then asking yourself, what is it that I know that they don't know? Because we can very easily get in a situation where we assume that the information we know everybody knows and they don't. So you have to be much more explicit about thinking about that. In terms of buddies, these are the people that you would just have a coffee with, maybe have a chat in the kitchen, wander past and have lunch with. Suddenly, when you're not physically in the same proximity of people, those relationships can break down. People that you wouldn't normally cross paths with in your day-to-day job. And those buddies, so make explicit attempts to set those up. Like I said, I had a virtual coffee this morning with 7 or 8 people, and they're my buddies. They're the people that I would normally have a cup of tea with. So we all grabbed a cup of tea and just had a chat. We have to balance those off by being able to make connections. Now, the bumpers, I don't know if anyone's ever heard of the concept of a bump space before, but it was very popular in architecture a few years ago to create new work environments where it actively encouraged people to bump into each other, whether that was stairways or hallways or kitchens. So these are people who, you don't work in their team, you don't work in their group on a day-to-day basis, you don't actually have anything to do with each other, except for the fact that you happen to pass their desk on the way to your desk, or maybe you walk to the same train station. So those are people that we call our bumpers, the people we just bump into. And surprisingly, they play an interesting role in our lives, because we find that information disseminates through businesses, through these bump opportunities. You know, you might run into someone who's in a different department and say, how was your day? Oh, it was really great. We delivered this great project and it was really bleeding edge. And you're like, oh, wow, I haven't heard about that yet. So suddenly all this information starts transferring through. So really sitting down and thinking about who those people are and then trying to make connections with them is a great way both for the mental health, but it's also great for having communication flowing through your organization and making sure that the business continues to run effectively. My last recommendation is have a plan. The Mike Tyson quote, "Everyone has a plan until they get punched in the face," is an old favourite of mine. And to be honest, I feel like this week we're actually on the other side of the punch in the face. So we were all trucking along, doing our lives, and all of a sudden we've had this massive disruptive event, and we're now trying to regroup. So my advice to you is structure your day. What are the fixed things that you have in there? Do I have daily stand-ups with my team? What are our meetings? I know, again, at MOQ, we've moved to daily stand-ups. We didn't do daily stand-ups in every team. We did in certain teams because that was part of their rhythm. But in other teams, we said, actually, right now it's really important we do instigate daily stand-ups. One of the things we're doing is asking each other if they're okay. And I'll show you an example of how we're doing that in a moment. Make sure you're allocating time for deep work. Distractions happen in the office, distractions happen away from the office. There are just some different types of distractions that happen at home, whether it is, animals wanting your attention, whether it's a bit of social media, whether it's just losing focus. So scheduling time for deep work and making sure you explicitly make time for those connections I talked about with your team, your group, your buddies, and your bumpers. In terms of setting boundaries, allocating yourself a start and finish time is pretty powerful. The first few days or weeks that you do this, it won't seem so important, but as you start to organise the new norm about being a work from home resource for the majority of the time, your lives will actually start to change and they'll blur. And so really thinking about what works for you. When am I at my best? Is it great that I work earlier in the morning and finish up in the afternoon, do some exercise? Because what's going to happen is you're going to need to schedule this time much better now. That routine of I get the train to work, I go for lunch, etc. changes. You have to now reset that, and you have to do that in accordance with what your accountabilities for your job are as well. And if you are leading a team of people, help them to understand. Because one of the things that happens with people who have not done this before is they start saying, well, if I'm not online for 9 hours straight, people think I'm not working. So how do I send messages to my leadership team that I'm adding value, that I'm being able to do my job? And having open conversations about that and clearly explaining to each other, hey, I find that I'm more of an early bird. I like to work early, but between 4 and 5, I'm actually going to go and take a walk because I've been sitting all day. So making time for exercise and also healthy meals. If you're used to buying your lunch every day, if you're used to not having to cook and meal plan and all of a sudden you're at home, it's pretty daunting. And often we can result to just simple pre-made food. So get online, have a look at some ideas for that, but please plan for healthy meals and snacks. It's very, very easy to let our health go when we are not suddenly working from home. Some ideas that we've got for support. So we have an online learning management system, and we enabled quite quickly a pathway called Working from Home, a guide for staff. And it did include a number of items around working safely, duty of care, but also ideas about staying productive. If you don't have an online learning management system, there are a number of free resources and paid resources out there. So I do encourage you, or go and ask your HR department what they have. I'm quite sure they should be ready to do this. This is really important to not assume that people know how to do this, because working from home every now and then versus working from home a lot is actually quite a big jump. Higgs mentioned social connection. This has been a huge one for us. Just starting a trail and post your setup has been absolutely fantastic. Yeah, and all the images in this presentation today, these are real images of our staff sharing. It's not something we ever talked about before, but I can tell you what, apparently MOQ people are dog lovers, and there are a few crazy cat people out there as well. But it's actually been amazing to create connection and empathy through this process and make people feel like they see each other and they understand each other. For those of you who haven't heard of the Pomodoro technique, it's a great one for procrastinators, and it's really designed by an Italian gentleman who happened to have an egg timer in his house that was shaped like a tomato, and Pomodoro is the Italian word for tomato. And what he realised is he was a bit of a procrastinator, so when there was a single task he had to do, he would set the timer for 25 minutes, and he would say to himself, you can't do anything else until you've done that, set the egg timer and work non-stop for 25 minutes. When the timer went off, it was take a 5-minute break, have a walk around, refresh your mind, and then go back and do another one. And every 4 Pomodoros, take a longer break. It's actually amazing when you set yourself a timer, how powerful that is in terms of getting things done. It's very easy to think of a million other things you want to be doing. So scheduling Pomodoro time during your day to get those tricky things that you've just been procrastinating on and breaking them down into smaller chunks. We've enabled for our team something called the MOQ Crisis Hub. Now, this is a power app on the Teams environment, which I'm going to show you a demo of at the moment. And it's actually where we've been able to put up the central repository. So we've got lots of communication channels in our business, and I'm sure you do too. We're not stopping with emailing, we're not stopping with instant message, we're not stopping with all those other communications. But having a hub where all of the information that our staff may need, whether it's frequently asked questions, emergency contacts, the latest news from the Australian Health, information, our daily updates that our CEO is sending, the daily videos that are going out, all in one place and available also on your mobile device has been really important for us. And we've noticed the way that the mental health has changed through this process. And so we've built last night, and it's in demo for you right now, what we call the MOQ check-in app. And that's a process where in our daily stand-ups, we very quickly instigated each manager, team leader, or leader of a group to ask 3 questions of every staff member every morning. How are you? How is your family? And is there anything we can help you with? And this was a great way for bubbling up where we might have potential problems with our staff in terms of, firstly their health, and then secondly, any other challenges they were having with this new mode of working. So we decided to actually build an app and we put that in. So the Crisis Hub, it covers a number of items. These are available and we can help you with it. It's a published app in terms of Teams, and there's information for how you can build this yourself, or our team can assist you if you want to. It includes company news, FAQs, world news. You can attach RSS feeds and also some helpful tips and links. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually just going to go to that right now. So let me just change my sharing feed. And I will share some content from, sorry, my mouse stopped working. This is the actual live MOQ Crisis Hub. And once it loads, you'll be able to see real data that we're publishing to our staff through this Crisis Hub. As I said, it is available on the mobile phone. So when I click in to company news, these are actually the updates that are coming from our CEO, and he's releasing those on a daily basis, and we're then publishing those for our staff so that they can stay in touch. He's emailing it out, and as you can see, we try to include a little bit of fun in it, but he's emailing them out as well as we're loading them up into here. We can add in all kinds of things along here. These are just quite simple updates. We've got our Colombo office with specific things, this information on working from home. This is where we in People and Culture are talking about how we need to control some of our social distancing and support mechanisms. World News is an RSS link. As I said to you, we're currently linking to the Australian.gov, health.gov, because that is the most relevant feed for us. And we've created a set of helpful tips for staff as well as they go through this phase. So we've got tips on working from home, which is an infographic we've shared, podcasts to help with anxiety. We're finding that mental health is a big one. App suggestions for people who've no longer going to the gym, no longer feeling that they can do group exercise. So getting some ideas. We've also got a video stream because we've got different publishing of videos, some fun, some which are actual serious updates. And so we've linked that to our stream account so that we can publish videos for our staff. FAQs are exactly what they say. What are our position on certain things? Different links of interesting and exciting statements and things that are going live, dashboards, articles that are relevant, emergency contacts for our staff, and also the suggestion box. And this is really great because people, if they think of a particular idea, they can then share those ideas around with us via the suggestion box. The last thing about the Crisis Hub is that when you first log in, it can ask you if you have an update on where you are, and you can actually post on there that I'm working from home. So if I just go back here to my demo, the last thing I talked about was the check-in app. So this MOQ check-in app is something that we built, well, the team actually built for me last night. We concept designed it yesterday morning, they built it overnight, and this is a video of what it actually looks like where we're asking people how they are. And these are examples of some things that you can do just to help your team feel connected during this time. So the check-in app is literally asking you, you know, we're talking to people every day, but how are you doing? If you're doing well, you're doing okay. If you select one of the bottom two, can be doing or not doing well, it actually pops a window to ask you if there's something that we can help you with. And so it's really keeping that so that it goes in and gets fed in so that people can effectively create a cry for help if they need to. So first of all, how are you doing? And then how is your family? In order for us to bring our best selves to work, it's really important that we feel that our family are safe, that we have a safe and secure environment. And so asking about people's families will also highlight early warning systems about what's really going on for your team during this time. Because providing psychological safety for our team is a really important part of us being able to effectively continue to manage business operations. And then lastly, do you have any comments or suggestions that you would like to add in? Is there anything we can help you with? And that all goes through. So that's just showing you an example of our Crisis Hub demo. And I'm not sure if there were any questions that came up during that time,
nope,
but I'm more than happy to answer any questions that you have. These are just really sharing some ideas of what we've learned and also some of the things that we're putting in place to try and support our staff.
That's fantastic.
So Andrew, heading back over to you.
Yeah, sure. Okay. Make sure that you guys can all see my screen. Content now. All right. Thank you very much for that, Kelly. So the last thing that I'd like to cover off. Oh, you may have noticed that I've removed my whiteboard. Unfortunately, I don't have background blur on, and this is quite embarrassing. You can now see all my Pokemon. Again, meeting etiquette. Remember to always turn on your background blur when, if you're a little bit sensitive to the things that might be behind you, or even just, there might be noise things going on. Background blur with Teams is a fantastic feature. But from an MOQ point of view, how can we help you? We offer a free Microsoft Teams assessment, and where we can, if your business is looking to go down the Microsoft Teams path, we can do an assessment of where you are on your Microsoft Teams journey. So that is understanding the maturity of your Microsoft Teams deployment and helping you enable the services. You might be haven't started using Microsoft Teams yet, so there's an opportunity for us as to understand how we actually adopt Teams. It's not just simply just turning it on and consuming it. It's understanding if we just turn this on, we need to make sure that we've got policies defined, that we've got the right naming conventions and the governance and the actual IT policies in place to understand how the Teams is going to be leveraged. Obviously, using it as a telephony and meetings platform as well, and the endpoints and the procedures and the interoperability services that go complement with telephony meetings, and as well as extending Teams, as Kelly has demoed for you. They're leveraging the use of Power Apps and Power Automate in embedding that into Teams to give you a richer experience. Bring everyone into the one single application. In parallel with that, there's also Cisco WebEx solutions as well. So we can obviously help you with your Cisco WebEx adoption services and video conferencing services as well, whether it be upgrading from a traditional telepresence platform and leveraging a WebEx solution and the relevant upgrade paths and how to get there. Or telephony solutions, excuse me, as well. So you might be looking to move away from a Cisco Call Manager solution and migrate to a WebEx calling solution. We can obviously have those workshops with you to help you tailor a roadmap of your Cisco telephony and video conferencing services.
Excellent. Now, look, I've just put a live question out in the Q&A, and we'd be keen to hear. I know we're coming towards the end, but we're obviously talking from our own experience of what has occurred over the last couple of weeks and what we foresee for the future. I'm curious if these are resonating with you, if you're seeing similar questions come up from your staff, if there are any other items that you think you would like MOQ to share about what we do, because we've really been a business that has been, born off the back of being a mobile workforce and being quite used to this, but even we've had to make a shift change. And I think the dynamics of how we lead, manage and hold our staff accountable in this new world is really important. But of course, we always do have to have the underpinning technology there, but it's really also about the people and the process side of things. So if anyone has any feedback or ideas on that, I'm very keen to hear about it.
Yeah, exactly, for sure. And there's also other things. There's in a time of crisis, and we have to also appreciate that we've all got different internet services at home as well. So you are going to have things like poor network connections and so forth, and there might be dropouts occasionally. And obviously having that appreciation of it's the best effort, right? You're participating in these conferences, and no one's forcing you to go out and buy a brand new internet connection. But there are definitely service providers out there that are obviously helping with the working from home life. That you might want to get in touch with them. They are looking to increase your data plans and also expedite NBN connections as well. So there's definitely some things that other service providers are out there doing to obviously help you get up to speed with working from home. But I hope that from today's presentation, you've learned some new methods and new ways to better work from home using the right technologies, the right equipment, and obviously making sure that you're making a plan, that you're setting your home life up for success as well.
And look, as an amusing anecdote, a number of times when I've worked from home, my headset's actually run out of batteries, and I've gone off and borrowed from my children the old gaming headset. They work surprisingly well if you don't have a Cisco headset or what have you. Obviously, it's all about constraint-led innovation, and my children have reluctantly lent me their gaming headset a number of times, which works surprisingly well.
That's fantastic. All right. Well, thank you very much, everyone. We've finished right up on the dot. If there's no further questions in the chat, and from what it looks like there aren't, we again at MOQ, thank you very much for joining us. And Kelly and I and the team will hang around for a little bit longer, just in case there are some last questions that you want to throw in the chat. And but yeah, again, thank you very much all for participating in this live stream.
Thanks, everyone. It's actually quite hard to do this when you're not able to talk back to us. But
yeah, exactly.
We're certainly this is a new process for us to trial doing it this way. But so again, feedback on the invites, how well the live stream worked, how smooth it was. We've done a number of tests this week, but in reality, it's your experience. So we're always keen to hear your feedback so that we can improve.
That's right. So, Kelly, just on that as well, just for customers out there that need help in this period of time that we're doing now, a lot of service providers and meetings, conferencing platform vendors are offering solutions out there that can assist during this period of time. So there's a lot of no cost leveraging of trials, licenses, and all of that. So feel free to reach out if we can assist in any of those.
That's a great point, Brian. And it's an opportunity. There's for you to trial some things at a very low barrier to entry, because there are some great deals going out there with both sets of vendors. Brian and Andrew Higgs and Andrew O'Leary are absolutely ready to help you with that. And if you have a look at our feed, you'll see that some of that stuff is going to start to appear on our feed as well, where we want to help our customers to make the most of these deals and opportunities.
Right.
Excellent. Well, I can see people starting to drop off. We had some Q&A questions around the slides being available. Yes, both the recording and the slides we will make available. So thank you. We will be looking forward to sharing that with you. And any special requests for other topics that you want to see covered, please do let us know.
All right. Thank you very much, everyone. We'll be closing the live stream now, and have a wonderful day, and stay safe, and please reach out if we can help you with anything that you need from collaboration services.
Great.
Yeah, thanks everyone.
Have a lovely
Thank you.
afternoon.